So, Chris, another session in the clubhouse. How are you feeling?
Yeah, we've been busy, haven't we, Mark, over the last week or so. So we did miss out on an episode last week, but what it does do is allow us to get our teeth stuck into what's been going on in the rugby world. So great to be back in our favourite clubhouse, isn't it, Mark?
It is. And in North London yesterday, a big event. Your team managing to not win the Carabao Cup.
As you can see, I've dressed in black and white, Mark, for Newcastle. I think our fellow mutual friend Joe Harvey has paid me to wear black and white today, with him being a Newcastle fan. But yeah, not the afternoon that I want it to be, Mark. Liverpool just didn't turn up, but we're not in a football dressing room. We're in the rugby clubhouse, so let's leave the football conversation for another day, Mark.
Well, let's stay in North London and let's sort of head over to the Stonex, where it was Premiership Women's Rugby, and we had Gloucester Hartpury women versus Saracens women, and the result went the way of Gloucester Hartpury with a 34-19 victory, and some great TV coverage. But my first observation was no Nick Heath on commentary. I was absolutely gutted.
I know. I saw something that he put on Instagram that he did the commentary. Was it for the mascot race? I think he might have done as well. But he's here. He's here, there, and everywhere, Nick, at the moment. So yeah, we're massive fans of him, aren't we, in this clubhouse and on Talking Rugby Union? And I'm sure you'll hear his voice across the Women's Six Nations, which gets underway this weekend. But he's been a massive advocate for women's rugby for so many years. I know he's done a lot for TNT Sports, but yeah, disappointing he wasn't there and wasn't commentating on the weekend. But he'll be back, I'm sure, with the Six Nations starting soon.
But it was Claire Thomas on the mic, and we've got good memories of Claire with Book Super Rugby. Remember talking to her at length when we were down at Worcester. So she's really doing well and really using adjectives incredibly well on commentary, I thought, after tuning in on Sunday.
Yeah, she's no, I remember. Yeah, obviously we've met her a couple of times on Bucks Finals Day when we've done the mark, and yeah, I know she did the Men's World Cup. She was doing commentary for ITV in 2023, and obviously she's continued to do stuff with TNT. Yeah, she's one of the best out there, and certainly around the women's rugby field. And yeah, her adjectives never fail to amaze me. And some of the columns she's written for other websites that she works for, you read them, you think, I didn't even know that word existed, which shows the talent Claire has. But yeah, as you say, the coverage of the actual the match itself, you got the sense that everybody who was working on the game really, really cares about growing women's rugby. And I think kind of the conversation I think the team had after the full-time whistle about the actual occasion itself, and Katie Daly-McLean, Emily Scarrett are on as pundits, they were just saying, look, this is a product which is only going in one direction, and with it being the Women's World Cup later in this year, it's great to have so many passionate people behind the game, and it's only going to be a good thing.
Well, for me, of course, I've got used to watching Scotland and going, Schumann, but now I'm going to be going, Maud. She was superb for Gloucester Hartpury. Could not get over how brilliant she was. Oh, so good to see a tight head prop scoring tries, but that smile on her face. Oh, she enjoyed that rugby.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw the post-match interview that Sean Lynn did after the game, and I think he got asked the question, like, what would, obviously he's moving on to his job with Wales and leaving Gloucester Hartpury behind. He said, what's the one thing that you take away from being at Gloucester Hartpury other than obviously winning the 3 league title he's won? And he said the energy, and he kind of referenced Maud's energy as well. Like, look, in the dressing room and team meetings, she's always got a smile on her face, and obviously, as you say, Mark, it translates itself onto the pitch with we were obviously enjoying the rugby. I remember actually for TRU, mentioned Joe at the start, but I think he interviewed Maud when she was at Wasps a few years ago, when she was really kind of one of those emerging talents, but an absolutely fantastic rugby player. And when you see someone playing with a smile on the face, it only adds to it.
And I thought Saracens actually looked very dangerous in the first half. Mm-hmm. But whatever Sean Lynn said to his team at half time changed the game completely in my mind.
Yeah, I think it's kind of been a common theme for Gloucester Hartpury this year, where they've not potentially flown out of the blocks, but then it's kind of they've kind of worked their way into the game, and then the class shot shines through. I think after the game as well, I think Mo Hunt has been interviewed, or Zoe Allcroft, and said, look, Sean gave us a bit of a rocket at half time. And we both, have spoken to Sean in the past for when he was at Hartbury for Bucks, Mark, haven't we? And he comes across as such a nice and gentle, humble guy, and you can't imagine him throwing a rocket at his players during half time. But seemingly it worked, and Gloucester's Hartbury's kind of nous and that class that they have shone through in the second half. But yeah, Saracens definitely started well and looked a real danger in that first forward.
Yeah, and then Mo Hunt got a yellow card. Now, that was completely against the script.
Yeah, and again, similar to what we say about Sean, Mo's maybe not that type of player, but I'm sure every scrum half has got that in them, haven't they? Picking up a yellow card or two, Mark. But yeah, no, that kind of, again, probably wasn't in the script, and Gloucester possibly had to work a few things out because of that. But as we just said there, Mark, they came back so strong in the second half to turn it into a victory, and obviously a third title in a row for the team.
So, talking rugby union, getting excited about Women's World Cup rugby?
Yes, we are, Mark. I know accreditation is just open actually for the tournament, but yeah, obviously with it being in England, so much to look forward to, dotted all around the different venues across the country, from Sunderland down to your Brightons and things like that. I know we're hopefully going to get a couple of people on the ground for us covering all the different angles of the Women's Rugby World Cup, but everything that has been talked about growing the game in this country and building up to 2025 seems to all be coming to fruition at the moment. The women's game in this country, certainly from the PWR this season, is a testament to that. And, the Red Roses have been on unbelievable form, haven't they, for the last few years? Yeah. And I'm sure they'll be wanting to obviously show that in the Six Nations, which starts this weekend.
Brilliant. So earlier in the day, down in Exeter, we had the Premiership Rugby Cup. Exeter 14, Bath 48. What a great second half from Bath.
I'm sure with your Bath kind of, I want to say loyalties, Mark, but probably your affiliation and support of them, it would have been a very happy Ashcroft household when Bath lifted that trophy Sunday afternoon. Sorry, a long time since the blue, black and white have had the ribbons around the trophy. But yeah, what a second half from Bath. And I think we actually spoke on the last episode about in the Clubhouse about how strong some of the Premiership sides were taking it at Bath for one of them. I mean, aside on the weekend, I know it was a final, but stacked with so much talent, wasn't it, that you wouldn't look out of place in a Premiership final, let alone a Premiership Rugby Cup final. So brilliant second half from then. And a TRU favourite, Tom Dunn, grabbing a brace, Mark. That must have been pleasing for you.
Well, Tom, I first met when he was playing at Bath University, and my first experience with him was playing away at Swansea University, and I was on the halfway line with the big lens, the camera, and all of a sudden he appeared on the wing, and I got the most fantastic photograph of him sprinting down the wing, ball in hand. And after the game, he walked over to me and said, "Mr. Ashcroft, if you've got a picture of that, can you please let me have it?" 12 months later, he said to me, "It's still on my bedroom wall." So how can I not respect a guy like that now? Absolutely superb, and great to see he had his contract renewed. And, I still think England let him down. He had more to offer England, and I would love to have seen him get some more caps.
Yeah, but I think, if you look at the other way, the amount that he's offered Bath is, from a Bath support's point of view, is, I don't think anyone can argue with the service he's given them. I think, you said yesterday that he joined the club in 2010, made his debut in 2012. He is Bath pretty much through and through, isn't he, Mark? So, it's great to see the smile on his face after the game, and hopefully he's going to put a picture of winning the trophy next to the picture you took on his bedroom wall.
That's right. I'll get our Max to chase Mark Lilly, who's one of the academy university coaches. So I think we might be able to get an inside line on those photographs on the wall.
I'm sure Tom will tell us himself.
Yeah. And our other favourite, of course, from a wet weekend in Kinsale when Ruaridh McConaughey and Freddie Clark of Gloucester played for Red Panda Sevens. I could hardly take pictures that day. It was so wet and misty. But great to see Ruaridh coming back to form. And I think I've said a few occasions, I'm really impressed by the fact that Ruaridh and Freddie are now the player representatives, chair and vice chair of the RPA. I think that is just fabulous. And I wish those two guys the very best on and off the pitch.
Yeah, couldn't agree more with that, Mark. Couldn't agree more. It's nice. I think Andy Robinson said yesterday as well after Bath's win that he kind of highlighted the senior players like Tom, like Ruaridh, who have come into the side and, you know, definitely from Ruaridh's point of view that he hasn't had that kind of first team action that he wants to, but he's not kind of had an ego about him. Obviously, you know him well, Mark, from, you know, those Red Panda days. He just seems incredibly grounded, and he's thought, you know what, I'm going to give it my all for this Prem Cup side, and it's great to see him being acknowledged in that way. And yeah, again, from a Red Panda TRU point of view, absolutely delighted to see him with another medal round his neck.
Great. Well, exciting stuff. And you'll see behind me Wharfdale, one of my favourite national league grounds. But more importantly, Johnny Matthews playing fixed edge. Now, the Irish pick Dan Sheehan and he scores tries. And they win games. And they don't finish in the bottom half of the Six Nations table. Unlike Scotland, who don't pick Johnny Matthews, the leading try scorer. And guess what? None of their forwards score tries, or very few of them. And they're in the bottom half of the Six Nations table. Need I say more, Chris?
No. I mean, you know, always when Glasgow are playing, say if it's a Friday night, Glasgow are playing, you might not have been on Twitter, but I can guarantee you on Saturday morning, TRU would have tweeted the fact that Johnny Matthews has scored again from a Glasgow. And, you know, and that just, you know, he is a try machine. You know, Glasgow have enjoyed some real success, haven't they, over the last couple of years? And I'd say, ask any Glasgow fan, they would say, you know, Johnny Matthews has absolutely played his part in that. And I know every time we see a Scotland squad announced, he might be in the wider squad. You go, right, this is going to be the chance after, obviously, he played in the World Cup, didn't he, Johnny? But it doesn't seem to have kind of fallen his way a little bit. I can't remember, and I'd have to do my digging on this, that he might have been, or he might not have been picked actually for the summer tour they had to the Americas last year. Yeah. And that felt like a bit of an opportunity for him as well. But yeah, can't agree more with you on that one, Mark. You know, he's a try machine. He's a brilliant player in his own right. So yeah, to see him not involved in the Six Nations might be a bit of a head scratcher, certainly for those of the Glasgow persuasion.
But he might make my Six Nations of the team, even though he's not played. Yeah. So that's a possibility, Chris. Now, let me run through the scores first, and then we'll get on to trying to pick our 15 players who make up our team of the tournament here in the clubhouse. So it was Italy 17, Ireland 22. It was Wales 14, England 68. And in Paris, it was France 35, Scotland 16. We've had a feast of rugby. We've seen France take the championship, and we've seen Scotland, Wales, and Italy struggle. And I would say Ireland and England going through a change period. Ireland, some of the senior players moving on. England suddenly being prepared to play rugby rather than fearing losing.
Yeah, I can't disagree with on that one, Mark. I think going back to the last chat we had, I think it was just after the Scotland game, and it was a bit like, this is the same old England, just kicking the ball away, no real plan. But then against Italy, we're like, okay, you know, they're actually playing some decent stuff, scoring some really nice tries, playing some really nice rugby. Although this is a start. And then I was listening to Steve Borthwick out of the Wales game, speaking to the BBC. He was like, look, this is an exciting team. We want to go out there and play. And I'm thinking, does he really mean that? You know, the amount of times we've heard England say they want to play, but from minute one, they were absolutely at it, weren't they, against Wales? And, I know Wales are going, they've got their own issues at the moment, but to dismantle Wales like that in Cardiff, with Cardiff obviously quite clearly pumped up for it, was just it was a brilliant display from England. The best probably of the Steve Borthwick era in terms of how everything just seemed to click together. So, yeah, really encouraging Six Nations, I'd say, for England, Mark. And from an Ireland perspective, I think you're absolutely right. You know, they are going through a bit of a transition with some of those experienced and probably legends in their own right moving on. And they kind of had beaten England at the start. They put a good performance in against Scotland, but it just kind of fizzled out for them a little bit towards the end. And, it might be with the players moving on. No Andy Farrell there. So we'll have to see how they go again in the autumn. But, yeah, definitely England on the up at the moment, which is positive.
Yeah. So let's start at fullback. And who would you be putting forward as our fullback for the team of the tournament?
I reckon we could do this alternately, Mark. So I'll pick this one, and then we'll go on to the next one. You have first pick, otherwise it could be a one-way street. So I'm going to go with Thomas Ramos of France at fullback. I'd go with.
Oh, Pippin, probably Blair Kingo.
Yes, yeah. I've got him down on my notes here, Mark, but yeah.
And maybe Hugo Keenan was expecting to do better in the tournament. But no, I will go with Thomas Ramos with you, Chris. That's fine. I think
what I would say, I think Kingo might have put himself in the frame for 15 for the Lions, though, ahead of Keenan, maybe.
Oh, I think that's a really good call. I really do think that's a great call.
It's definitely for episode as well, that.
And look, I think, when we get to the wingers, so 14 and 11, I think you really struggle to look past Darcy Graham and BL Beery.
Yes.
Is that how you say it?
Yeah.
I would have those in my team of the tournament as our two wingers. I don't know what you think, Chris.
I think BLBRE, that was my attempt, is probably the player of the tournament. So I've got absolutely no arguments for that one. The only other thing, again, this is an English bias which might run through the team, that all the players I pick, but I would maybe give Tommy Freeman a bit of a mention. I retweeted something yesterday from Opta that said he scored a try in every round, which obviously doesn't mean anything, but I think he's shown that he's an international test player over the Six Nations. He's been great for Northampton. I thought he's brilliant on the wing. I know he slotted into centres against Wales, didn't he, with Fraser Dingwall, but Freeman deserves a notable mention. But yeah, Darcy Graham, I always like him as a player. He's scored that really nice try against France, didn't he? So yeah, let's go with Graham and BRE.
Okay. Well, let's turn to you for the centre partnership.
This will be a bit of a debate. So I'm going to go with Mafana from France at 13.
Wow.
He scored against Scotland. I thought he did really well against Scotland. Such a powerful player. And I'm going to go with Italy for 12. I'm going with Menoncello. I just think I really like him as a player, and that combination with him and Brex I think there's something there for Italy. Will they stop doing something stupid and like getting yellow cards and shooting themselves in the foot? Everything can click with them, and those two will be integral. So those would be my two picks, I think. Hugh Jones, unlucky to miss out, I think.
Yeah, no. So that's interesting, because I've been on my Substack account been doing a Lions predictor, and it started off with basically people I knew. So yeah. Mike Haley at fullback, Freddie Clark in the second row, and it's evolved over the months. And I sort of, for my Lions prediction, I was settling on Bundy Aki and Gary Ringrose, but I thought to myself, you're wrong, Mark. If you're going with a Six Nations team, it's got to be Menoncello and Brex in the centres, surely.
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
I think they've been outstanding, and I think their skill set, their physicality, their speed, I've got to go with those two in my mind.
Yeah, no shout for Ben Earl.
Yeah, I think, do you know, the press take Borthwick too seriously. That would be my. I actually think he has a sense of humour, does Borthwick, but I don't think the mainstream media quite get that yet. So,
yeah, let's go with the Italians, 12 and 13.
And I'm actually, I guess, when we look at fly half, that gets interesting because there's a lot of pressure on Andy Farrell picking the Lions team. And again, the mainstream media, the BBC, the Telegraph, the Times, are all throwing Owen Farrell's name into the ring. Yeah, he's not playing. And the readout that I've had from all the French press that I've read is that he's not actually been playing that well. Now, I like Owen Farrell, but, that we've got to be careful. And I think when we look at the Six Nations, I've got to say that for me, the most entertaining fly half has been Finn Russell. And I would, I'd go with Finn Russell in our the tournament.
Yeah, I think his quality is undeniable. He's a brilliant player to watch. You always get excited watching him. I don't think if you ask him, I don't think he'd be happy with potentially the performances or the displays he's put in the Six Nations. I thought he was brilliant against England, other than when it mattered with the conversions. I thought attacking, to get in Scotland moving, he was fantastic. Against France, I think he was forcing it a bit too much. There were a couple of moments where it just keep hold of the ball thing. You don't have to pull the box of tricks out every time. I think he was a little bit under par for Finn Russell. Finn Smith I thought was brilliant. I thought, he made the 10 shirt his own. He was given a big call by Borthwick to go with Finn over Marcus at 10. And I think Finn really showed sort of his different qualities for England. But yeah, no, let's go with Finn Russell. I think he's got a lot more to give. And in a weird way, Mark, I think, is a little bit under par Six Nations will spur him on to hopefully have a strong end to the season for Bath and go, do you know what? I want to be that number 10 for the Lions in the summer.
Definitely. And I mean, at scrum half, you can't look past Antoine Dupont. So, let's move on to the forwards.
Yeah.
So I'll start with the front row. You can do the second row, and then we'll talk back row, if that's all right.
Yeah, definitely take the front row, Mark.
So I'm going to put Dan Sheehan at hooker.
Or
Johnny Matthews.
Yeah.
Scoring tries. I like a try scoring hooker. I think that's good for a team, and particularly playing in Australia. But look, this is a team of the Six Nations tournament, and I think Sheehan's been exceptional. So let's give him the nod.
Yeah.
Loosehead, really interesting. I thought Ellis Genge was absolutely superb this weekend.
Yeah.
I mean, his scrummaging was top notch. His attitude, his ball carrying, his defence. Ooh, that's thrown a real sort of question, because up until that point, I was sort of thinking Andrew Porter. Now, Will Griff-Jones sort of nullified Andrew Porter in that Ireland-Wales game. So I'm going to go with Ellis Genge.
Yeah.
And then tighthead. Well, I've got to say, when I always think tightheads, I always think Tad Furlong, but I can't pick him because he's not really played.
Yeah.
So, I end up with I end up with Xander Ferguson. I end up with Antonio.
Yes. Yeah.
And I end up with Will Stewart. The big French guy always impresses me, but
yeah,
Now I'm going to go Will Stewart, Chris. I'm going to go Will Stewart. I think he's probably been one of the best England players during the Six Nations.
Yeah, I was going to try and send you it while we're talking about, but I've literally got all three of those in my notes. 1, 2, 3 is Genge, Sheehan, and Will Stewart. So
Good.
So I think we are very much agreed on that one.
So over to you, second rows.
So it was tough for this, and I thought I didn't think it was an easy position to pick. I mean, the obvious for me would be Itoje. First tournament as captain, I thought he led the team really, really well. Solid performances. Obviously he always has that kind of tendency to, give away silly penalties, and you think you don't have to cross that line too much, Maro. But I think we saw it less in the Six Nations because he's captain. And I thought he really stood up when England needed him most. So I'd go with Maro. Obviously, a lot of talk about whether he'll be captain in Australia for the Lions this year, but that's for a later date. And then alongside him, I really kind of had a soft spot for Ollie Chesson. I thought he was really, really good during this tournament for England. Showed his quality, certainly in the line-out, what he can bring when England do have a bit of a dynamic back row. Chesson offers that really good balance. So maybe Chesson, but I was going to go with, don't butcher his name, but I think it's Gilliard. Is it Gilliard who plays for France?
Yeah.
I think he's at Toulon at the moment, or Leon at the moment. So I'd rather than not going for another Englishman, Mark, I'll go with Gilliard from France alongside Itoje in the second row.
Yeah, look, I think the great thing about French second rows, they pick blokes that are massive.
Yes.
And can, as the name suggests, they can lock down the scrum.
Yeah. What did you make 7-1 as well, Mark?
Yeah. I've got no problem having a French lock in our team.
Yeah.
And I think there's a few French locks that could get in there. So I'll go with you, but I'd be absolutely prepared to just put number 5 brackets French bloke, preferably a blinking big one, close brackets. So right. So I am incredibly biased to the number 7 position.
I think we might both be, Mark, but I'll let you continue.
So I think it's only fair that you start with the number 6, the blindside flanker.
Yeah, I'm going to go with France again for this, Mark. I think Francois Cross was immense across the Six Nations. I think I was having a look, doing a bit of research this afternoon. I think he made 70 tackles across the Six Nations, which is pretty impressive overall. Brilliant. France obviously winning the Six Nations, and we can praise your BRBREs and your Duponts, but as we just touched on with the locks, the forwards absolutely put in a shift. Obviously, 7-1 split on the bench at the weekend, 7-1 split against Ireland, and it obviously paid dividends. You can have, you say, on a 7-1 split, but these French forwards know exactly what they're doing, and certainly at number 6, Francois Cross is my pick in that shirt.
Can't disagree with you. Just love the French pack. Yeah. Either the version that starts or the version that finishes. But I love their attitude. So I'm not going to disagree. Now, open side flanker. Now, I've got to say there's only one choice for me, and that's Ben Curry.
Yeah.
I think Ben Curry has been England's player of the tournament. And I know he was cruelly robbed of England caps by injury. And I know his twin brother has demonstrated huge commitment to the England cause. But I got to tell you, what I've been seeing for sale and what I've seen in the Six Nations, Ben Curry for me, England's player of the tournament, and my shoe-in at number 7.
Yeah. Can't really add much more to that, Mark. Brilliant for sale. Bided his time, hasn't he, to get this England opportunity. And to see him take it in the manner that he's done has been absolutely spot. In a weird way, you expect nothing less from him as well. His attitude's absolutely spot on. And I don't know whether that's, maybe put him in contention for one of those seats on the plane to Australia as well, Mark. But every time you're watching, you can't not be impressed whether he's starting or coming off the bench. So yeah, definitely Ben Curry at 7 for me.
So your decision on number 8, who should that be?
Well, we have already got one Irishman in the team, I think, so far, with Dan Sheehan. And Caelan Doris was a close one for me, but I think Gregory Aldrit, superb. Again, I think there was a bit of surprising commentary on Saturday when he was subbed after 50 minutes for this, for the new forwards, as we just talked about, to come on. But I think, he's a brilliant leader, fantastic for France. And I think kind of against France versus Ireland, he kind of edged Doris, even though I thought Doris played pretty well. So, yeah, Gregory Aldrit for me at number 8, Mark.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think Gregory Aldrit, actually, I would have him as my French player of the tournament. I know everybody else will be going for Biarberry or maybe Antoine Dupont, but I thought Aldrit has been exceptional. I would say, a little bit like you've just mentioned, I was expecting a lot more from Caelan Doris. I really had him down as my Lions number 8 and my Lions captain. But the last 2 games, actually, I've seen somebody in his own team outshining him. I think Jack Conan has been exceptional. And I think if Conan carries on like that, it's really going to be interesting to see if Andy Farrell puts both Doris and Conan on the plane together.
So that's our Six Nations team of the tournament. We hope you've enjoyed Chris Heel and Seniormash. More from us in the coming weeks in the Clubhouse, a session that allows us to talk about rugby union. Thanks all.